Guys, for those of you who do not know me, I'm Zeke Rodrigues Thomas. I'm a podcast producer, I'm a director, screenwriter, stand-up, producer of many things, including the Smologies podcast. I work for and on the Ologies with Ali Ward team, and I have a production company, Mind Jam Media, that does a lot of production services for people in the podcast space. We've done work with Nickelodeon. We've done work with Justice Studios. We've done work with American Public Media. And now I just wanted to share with you guys that I've sort of been making a seismic shift in the way I've been approaching content, in the way I've been sort of putting myself out into the universe. And for me, that looks a lot like doing stand-up comedy instead of improv. That means doing a weekly podcast where I am the voice, I am the host, as opposed to strictly producing other people's content, which I've gotten really good at, I gotta say. But in my heart of hearts, what I've always wanted to do is put myself out there, out there in a very meaningful way. And during the pandemic, I definitely had an opportunity to think about that and to find ways of connecting my voice with my audience. And maybe I should build an audience. And so that's one of the many ways that I'm doing it. This YouTube channel has been fairly dormant as far as me putting myself out there for as long as I can remember. I was early internet famous by proxy. Jared Sleeper and I, the first video we made together way back in 2011, how to pick up a girl at the gym, that was the start of it all. 1 million views in a day, 9 million views in a week, licensed videos across all sorts of content platforms. And that was great. And that was a lot of fun. And that was really the beginning of my content journey, was having early viral fame. Jarrett and I would go on to hit the front page of Reddit once a year for about 3-4 years in a row. And that was a lot of fun. It was a lot, and it was good. But I never intended to treat YouTube as a means to as the end point. It was always a means to an end to sort of establish myself in showbiz and whatnot. And it's not until recently that sort of this idea of a creator economy has just really taken hold. And for me, podcasting has been a great outlet. Turns out I have a skill set that lends itself to making podcasts, both in theory and in practice. But I haven't hosted a podcast in probably about 5 years. And for those of you that were around during the early days of Getting Real with Zeke, or maybe 2-3 years ago, pre-pandemic, 3 or 4 years ago now, Jarrett and I did fight stuff, and we did that for somewhere around 10 episodes before we got busy working on other projects. And, that was just something that I loved, but just required a lot of time and effort. It required Jarrett and I to be at the same place at the same time. And if you're familiar with Los Angeles, I'm on the west side, he's on the east side. And it's really tough to sort of get people together to make a thing. And that's when we do our best work. Whether we're writing for Nickelodeon or working on any number of projects. So with this, I've decided to do a couple things. One, the big announcement is I'm launching my Patreon, right? A big Patreon launch, or should I say relaunch, or initially it was about fight stuff. But now I have a new podcast that I've been working on. Last week, we did our first live stream podcast. We have been using Instagram Live as sort of our baseline way to showcase and record our podcast, taking that audio and then repurposing it for podcast, for audio only purposes. And that's currently our best solution. But ideally, multi-user live streaming is going to be the way to go. And I don't want to use OBS and do all that just yet. But this is definitely baby steps in building this community. The podcast itself, what is it? Shred the Mic, right? Shred the Mic is Shred the Mic with Zeke and Kelly, two stand-up comedians who are going to be showcasing raw, unfiltered, brand new material that has not been seen anywhere else, based off of the notes that we write in our phone from the previous week. Last week we premiered, and we ran through, probably each of us had 3 or 4 premises that we would riff upon and present to you guys and try to make each other laugh. Obviously, the comments and the audience interaction is a big part of helping shape that content. Some people even gave us some tags, which were great. What was really cool is not only did we learn what jokes, what premises people connected with, but we didn't know. Both of us did an open mic last night at the West Side Comedy Theater in Santa Monica, and I took out some material that was a little bit more theoretically polished, a version of a 3-minute set I'd done at Flappers. But Kelly, who has all the balls in the world, she took her 3 minutes and took jokes that she had done on the podcast and then immediately did them on stage. And she obviously wrote around them, took some feedback and whatnot. And it was rather incredible to sort of watch simultaneously something that came out of the podcast be put up on stage less than a week later. And I don't know, there's something inspiring about that. Part of this podcast is to demystify the comedy writing process. Part of it is to document the journey. Kelly's been doing stand-up for 7 years. I've been doing it a month. I should also mention that I had a prior, 15 to 20 year career, 20 years now, of doing improv and sketch comedy in LA. And so there are some transferable skills there, but, I've worked as a writer, I've worked as an actor, I've worked as a host, and I've been on stage a bunch, but never have I combined them into stand-up, right? Which is essentially writing, directing, producing. It's all of the above right there in real time, and that's really what I fell in love with. And sort of my original point was during the pandemic, I got frustrated. I got a chance to reevaluate what was my mental block in business. I've been able to eke out a nice middle-class showbiz existence over the years, and that's been good and fine. But my ability to showcase material that's in my own voice has kind of taken a back seat, and I'm tired of it. I've been working pretty hard to sort of dial in my own voice and kind of see what's going on. I'm 43 years old. I'm a avid surfer and snowboarder. I've had pets. I've been married. I've been divorced. And I just ended a 17-year relationship. I have a point of view now. I've been sober almost 20 years. All these little things that, some people are like, oh man, these are major life events. But they definitely inform my voice as a comic, as a comedian. And I'm just more excited to sort of put that out into the universe. And I think some of you might connect with it, right? So it was a combination of getting tired of waiting on gatekeepers and just showcasing new material. If you've ever talked to anybody who's a comedian or a comedy writer, or anybody who's just sort of in the public eye a lot, or is just like a generally funny person, more often than not, they keep a comedy notebook. And for me, in the years prior to a good notes app on my phone, I had a physical notebook that I would keep in my left pocket, right? I would have my wallet in my right back pocket, and I'd have my comedy notebook in my left back pocket. And anytime anybody in my life said something funny, anybody had a weird concept or a weird premise, it would immediately go in. Even when I was working day jobs, I'd be like, hold on, is that yours? Can I use it? Like just literally writing down anything that would come to mind. The last thing I would want to do is steal anybody's material or, accidentally, if somebody, this is pre-memes, meme-related comedy, I would hate to use somebody's, internet joke. But, the Notes app on my phone has been like the greatest resource and source of material for me these days. In fact, it's what I was mining when I did my first stand-up comedy set. I just went through my notes and I was just like, all right, what do we got? What do we got here? We got CrossFit jokes. We got martial arts jokes. We got somebody who's been in therapy jokes. Sweet, my love and obsession with cults. Haven't met a cult documentary I didn't like. And I just sort of started from there. And there's a bunch of other premises in, I got to figure out which way I'm going to go. Premises, I don't know. There's a premise with an S on there. um, that I love, right? And it's sort of like, what do you do with it, right? What do you do with all those notes in your comedy notebook? Well, Kelly and I had this idea that I was pitching to my writing creative partner Jared Sleeper at Mind J Media, and our time is at a premium, and I was just like, dude, I think I just need a creative outlet on a weekly basis that forces me to write and be creative. And for me, that means going through my notes from the week, and even if it's 3 sentences, I can riff on those and find a way to make them funny. And so the podcast Shred the Mic was born of that. You know, Kelly and I are both ridiculous people, and we're constantly writing stuff down. And so the way we set up the podcast was each of us will have 5 minutes, uninterrupted 5 minutes, to try and make each other laugh, make our audience laugh, and just do that with the notes in our phone from the previous week. We're not allowed to use old material. It's only, you're obviously your own watchdog as far as how old the material is, but you're only allowed to use thoughts or materials from the previous week as sort of your jumping off point. So for us, that was 5 minutes was enough. And that's, if you're a prolific writer and you have 50 premises, you could rapid fire it, or you have one premise that you want to try and explore for 5 minutes, entirely up to you. But for us, that was the exciting part of just forcing ourselves to write and create new material. And that will hopefully make its way to either the stage or to a special or to a TikTok or a YouTube short or anywhere else that we are sort of putting up content. But yeah, I mean, that was part of the frustration previously, is like having all this material that never got to see the light of day, that we never got to beta test out there. I was doing improv, but you don't want to script your improv. You want to try and be in the moment to the best of your ability. And so I'll share this. My one of my Producers Guild mentors, I was lucky enough to work with one of the guys who continues to help Tim and Eric do what they do. And he opened up the books, and in a very general way, he outlined to me how they financially made everything work at the studio, how many shows he had to sell, and this, that, and the other. And at the end of that conversation, after showing me what was what, he was like, I'm really jealous of you, because you have the ability to go direct to consumer, and you don't have to deal with gatekeepers. You don't have to deal with development executives to the level that I do. And while I have relationships in development and production that I value, and they're great, and I hope we're continuing to work on the projects that we're working on, what's nice is I also have another path too. I have this other path of building my own pirate ship outside the system, where I can go direct to consumer, where I can build a platform, where I can build a community, build an audience. And that brings us to Patreon, right? What was important to me this time, and this was after asking a lot of people in and out of show business, people with money, people without money, people who are artists, people who aren't artists. As I was sending out versions of my Patreon for feedback, I got a lot of consistent things that came to mind, continue to bubble up to the surface. One of them was, don't undervalue your work as a creator, and they were like, hey man, off the record, you've also given away a lot for free as a digital creator. And that was definitely true. But the third thing that everyone told me to keep in mind was giving away things in order to build a sense of community, which I definitely wholeheartedly subscribe to. So for as little as $5 a month, let me run through the whole premise of my Patreon and the various levels. If you go to patreon.com/zekethomasisrad, you can follow along. There is a link in the notes here that you can definitely follow along. But you can see Zeke Thomas is Rad is creating stand-up comedy, podcast, and video content. Now, all of these tiers are based off of either skiing or surfing, just because both are very near and dear to my heart. And plus, in addition to Shred the Mic, Kelly and I are both mountain and beach people, and we just sort of want to keep it all in the same genre. So at the $5 level, right, the Kooks level, $5 a month, you can officially announce yourself as a patron of the arts, right? Plus, of course, you get behind-the-scenes content. You have access to Patreon-only mini episodes, as well as complete access to the prior post archive that I've been gradually putting Patreon-only content onto the Patreon. Aside from that, we also have the $10 per month version. This is for Groms. You've learned the rules of the water and the slopes, but you still have a lot to learn. Enjoy some perks while you study. First and foremost, the biggest perk on this one is access to my functional bodybuilding programming. Many of you guys know I have a strength and conditioning company that I've been running in addition to all my showbiz pursuits, sort of in tandem. And, I've coached at Dynamics A4. I've been a lifelong martial artist. And now I'm coaching functional bodybuilding over at Blue Republic CrossFit in Santa Monica. And if you want access to the programming that I create over there, you're more than welcome to it. I'll be sending it out to everyone at the $10 level. There's many workouts I've given away for free on my Poseidon Performance Training on my Instagram. But now, if you want to stay current with my current workouts, where we split them between upper body and lower body, they're great, and they are going to be available at this $10 level. This also gives you access to my monthly AMAs, where, of course, if you don't know me already, you can ask me anything. Literally anything, any number of topics, but the monthly AMAs, in addition to, of course, all the stuff from the previous tier. I've seen some of you guys have already joined, which is great. Next level up is the Johnny Utah $25 per month level, right? A little bit more of a commitment, but here's the dope part. You have access to exclusive quarterly merch. I got to practice saying that. Exclusive quarterly merch, right? If you are a consistent 3-month or more contributor to this tier, to the $25 tier, to the Johnny Utah tier, you get a sticker. After 6 months, you get a mug. After 9 months, you get a t-shirt. And then after 12 months, you get an organic tote bag. And of course, you get a shout out on the podcast. Anyone who's willing to contribute $25 a month to my Patreon definitely deserves a shout out. And of course, you still have access to the functional bodybuilding program and the AMAs and all that BTS content. And then, of course, I have a couple of ludicrous tiers that I felt like I should go ahead and just put out there and see how people felt about them, right? Because there are some people in my life that are doing quite well financially and need an outlet to spend some money. So I'm here to help them. First one is Bodhi, right? Limited to 10 people, limited to 10 patrons, and we currently have all 10 available. Here's what you get, right? Bodhi from the movie Point Break. Look at you. You're a modern savage. You're a modern savage who only lives to get radical. You're going to be able to get sick and shred the gnar wherever you want with these incredible perks. One, you're going to be listed as associate producer of the podcast. If you've ever seen the credits on movies, you'll see that people are very often listed as producers or executive producers on projects. Very often they have nothing to do with show business. Hollywood trade secret. All they do is they bring money to the table. They bring capital. They bring the principal, as they say, right? So with you, at $99 a month, you get to be listed as associate producer of the podcast. And who knows, you could use this to springboard yourself into a giant Hollywood career. Please remember your old friend Zeke when you're financing feature films and taking over the studio system. Other perk that you also get that I love at this level is you get a one-on-one virtual 60-minute consulting session with me per month, right? If you want to use that for functional fitness, script consulting, if you want to talk sobriety, production best practices, career advice, if you want to talk about comedy, you can do whatever you want with that 60 minutes. It's available to you at the $99 per month level. Just so you guys know, in my life outside of here, I charge a lot more money for script consulting and a lot more money per hour for content strategy. That's probably closer to about $300 an hour for what I do. But I want to build a community. I want to connect with you. I'm going to help you guys achieve the next level in your career, whatever that is. And, I do a lot of that in my everyday life. And I definitely want to do it for you guys. Lastly, I have 3 Harkin Banks memberships available. If you've ever seen the movie Hot Dog, the movie, right? Harkin Banks, our lead character, is quite the skier, right? And I won't spoil it for you, but let's just say, I don't even know if this term is canceled or not, but he participates in a Chinese downhill and he may or may not win the race and save the day. The jury's out on whether this movie is completely canceled or not, but it definitely has some problematic elements. But Hot Dog the movie, so good. Harkin Banks, a great hero, great lead character. But here's what you get at the $500 per month. Besides, you admit that you are financially irresponsible in supporting me at the $500 a month level, I will give you plenty of access in return. So in addition to all the other tiers, all the other access points that you get, all the merch, all that good stuff, you also get 6 60-minute personal training sessions with me, right? You don't have to be geographically near me. We can work out together from afar. Please take advantage of my level 1 CrossFit certification, my USA weightlifting level 1 coaches certification, my years of coaching CrossFit and Olympic weightlifting, and all the other physical endeavors I've done over the last 15 to 20 to 43 years of my life. Anyways, guys, that is the rundown on the Patreon. I would appreciate your support, but more than anything, listen, if you just choose to listen to the podcast, rate the podcast, share, subscribe, smash that like button, do all the things that you guys already know how to do. Listenership is what matters to me. Participation is what matters to me. If you're in a spot where you can financially contribute and access some of those great perks on the Patreon, I would love it. But obviously, it is not necessary. Guys, that is our live video. This has been 22 minutes of fun and a very long monologue of sorts. But I feel like you have a much better idea of who I am as a creator, of who I am as a person, and what you'll get if you join us on the live stream, which, by the way, in 90 minutes, Kelly and I will be doing our second episode of Shred the Mic with Zeke and Kelly on Instagram Live. And we hope to one day port it over to YouTube Live once multi-user live streaming becomes a thing. All right, guys. Hope to see you if you're watching this live. Hope to see you back over at Instagram Live for the Shred the Mic live stream podcast, or podcast live stream as we like to call it. Or you can always check out the audio version. Audio version is going to be available not only on the Patreon, but it will be available at all the other places where you can get podcasts. Shred the Mic podcast with Zeke and Kelly. Hell yeah. Guys, you rock. You are Legion. And I will see you guys all very soon.